kosong kalau di foto biar nggak kosong gitu. Hah? Cynthia. Ya, agak maju boleh, agak maju.
Tes. Oke.
Yes, terima kasih. Boleh maju ke depan untuk yang masih kosong bangku di depan itu biar kalau dipoto bagus. Berarti kamu
Cek.
tes.
Oke, baik teman-teman. Perkenalkan, nama saya Ito, saya yang akan menjadi MC untuk acara KAT siang hari ini. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan, salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Selamat siang Bapak Ibu, serta para hadirin yang terhormat dan para pembicara kita. Cynthia Nolan Myers, Head Creative Engagement at Art Center Melbourne. Garin Nugroho, a Film Director and Chief Program at GIK UGM. And Sudjud Dartanto as a Moderator and Curator and Lecturer at ISI Yogyakarta. Puji syukur kita panjatkan kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa. Kita semua dapat berkumpul di sini pada hari ini dalam keadaan yang sehat. Untuk menghadiri acara Kelola Art Talk yang ke-32 ini. Dengan tema Navigating Cultural Art and Creative Engagement in Contemporary Society. Perkenalkan saya untuk menyampaikan rasa terima kasih kepada seluruh hadirin yang telah meluangkan waktu untuk hadir di acara ini. Sebelum acara dimulai, mari kita berdoa untuk kelancaran acara ini. Berdoa menurut kepercayaan masing-masing. Berdoa mulai. Berdoa selesai. Selanjutnya untuk seluruh hadirin dimohon untuk berdiri karena kita akan menyanyikan lagu kebangsaan Indonesia Raya. Untuk Mbak Tasya memimpin lagu Indonesia Raya. Hadirin dipersilahkan duduk. Berikutnya akan dilanjutkan sambutan dari Ketua Jurusan Tata Kelola Seni kepada Bapak Dr. Miku Susanto MA. Waktu dan tempat dipersilahkan.
Baik, terima kasih. Selamat siang semuanya. Oke, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Cynthia. Welcome to our campus. Oke, teman-teman, selamat datang juga di kampus ISI Yogyakarta di Departemen Manajemen Seni di jurusan Tata Kelola Seni. Kami membuat agenda ini secara reguler hampir setiap bulan sekali. Jadi ini udah yang ke-30 sekian, walaupun kadang-kadang juga ada bulan yang tidak ada kegiatannya. Di forum ini Mas Garin ada beberapa universitas, ada 3 universitas tidak. Jadi ada UGM, ada Stipram Yogyakarta, dan ada ISI Yogyakarta. Meskipun kampus ISI sekarang masih libur, sedang KRS-an, jadi ini ada beberapa mahasiswa yang sudah sampai kembali lagi ke kampus atau ke Jogja dan bisa mengikuti ini semua. Selamat datang semuanya. Sebelum, terutama mahasiswa ISI, sebelum nanti minggu depan sudah masuk kuliah. Cynthia, I want to thanks for coming because this for surprising event from Mas Garin. Surprise. Oke, jadi teman-teman, mari kita nikmati saja apa yang terjadi di Australia ataupun dalam pikiran Cynthia. Tentu ini akan membuka banyak hal terkait dengan isu-isu budaya, seni, ataupun kegiatan-kegiatan yang nantinya akan berefek kepada kegiatan-kegiatan kita di masa depan. Jadi kebetulan juga ada Mas Garin yang kita tahu orang yang nggak pernah diam. Jadi beliau kebetulan semester kemarin mengajar di sini juga, sehingga tidak putus begitu saja, dan kemudian setiap ada tamu selalu datang ke sini dan kemudian bisa berdiskusi dengan kita semua. Jadi itu saja dulu sementara dari saya. Terima kasih. Saya akhiri. Selamat siang dan wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Baik, terima kasih Pak Mika atas sambutannya. Berikutnya, selamat mengikuti acara. Semoga cut ini dapat memberikan manfaat bagi kita semua. Tanpa berpanjang kata, mari kita mulai acara ini. Untuk memoderatori acara kepada Bapak Sudjud, waktu dan tempat dipersilakan.
Okay, thank you so much, Pak Mika, as head of the Arts Management Department. The head of Arts Management Department, I will speak, I think, mix up between bahasa dan English ya, agar kita juga bisa sama-sama ikuti. But mostly I will use English as our conversations. And I think today we are so fortunate to have two of prominent speakers that coming far away from Indonesia. Cynthia Nolan Myers is a highly experienced arts and cultural leader with expertise in strategic planning, public programming, and community engagement. With a master in arts management and extensive experience across Melbourne's leading cultural institutions, she has spearheaded initiative in creative engagement, public art, and education program development. Tadi Mas Garin sudah nyinggung ke saya kalau akan ada irisannya dengan keluarga dan anak. I think this is quite interesting to be follow. And Cynthia has held senior roles in Art Center Melbourne. Itu dekat atau beririsan dengan University of Melbourne di Australia, itu di Melbourne, di kota Melbourne ya. Dan irisannya juga dengan Asia Link, itu juga satu lembaga yang cukup akrab sebetulnya, banyak memfasilitasi antara praktisi seni budaya Indonesia dan Australia. Kemudian selain itu juga di Museum Victoria and various local councils, where she led diverse teams manage large-scale events. Jadi tokoh yang banyak ada di balik event-event besar atau event-event penting di Australia. And develop tidak hanya Australia dan juga internasional. And develop inclusive programs. She is also a board member of the Center for Projection Art and guest lecturer at Deakin University. And then next behind me, Mr. Garin Nugroho, tidak asing lagi ya dengan apa Mas Garin ini adalah sosok sutradara, penulis skenario, dan produser film Indonesia yang sangat terkenal dengan karya-karya inovatifnya. Mas Garin ini juga dikenal misalnya karya-karya yang banyak mengangkat tema budaya dan politik, and then human rights issues. Some of his notable works itu seperti Cinta dalam Sepotong Roti. Kalau Anda pernah dengar atau lihat filmnya ini ya, Daun di Atas Bantal, Kucumbu Tubuh Indahku, and many works, incredible works dari Mas Garin. Garin is also active in other art forms. Dia juga seniman, such as theater and visual art. His unique directorial style membuatnya menjadi a key figure di Indonesia cinema. So I think that's my prologue to starting up our organic conversation. I think this quite been formal and organic, Cynthia. And next, after me, I would like to invite Mas Garin to give some introduction to before Cynthia.
Terima kasih ya, selamat siang teman-teman. Mohon maaf saya langsung bahasa Indonesia karena saya sudah pernah bilang bahasa Inggris saya itu salah tapi orang lain paham. Tapi yang jelas jaminan saya bukan paham yang salah ya. Jadi hari ini kita membuka suatu yang menurut saya menjadi penting untuk fakulti atau jurusan dari tata kelola ya. Karena sebetulnya seperti sesuai judulnya ya, ada semacam panduan tentang seni dan budaya, tapi juga ada engagement, artinya itu ada semacam kesepakatan. Itu dalam arti lunaknya, kalau dalam arti luasnya itu kan semacam battle ya. Kalau dalam bahasa Inggris itu engagement itu semacam battle, pertempuran terus-menerus untuk kita memproyeksikan, mengembangkan, tapi juga menyimpan perkembangan seni dan budaya dalam suatu masyarakat yang terus bertumbuh, khususnya masyarakat yang kontemporer itu. Maka ini adalah salah satu program dari Gelanggang Inovasi dan Kreativitas, yaitu Kreatif di bawah Gajah Mada, yang disebut GIG Menyapa, yaitu kita menyapa berbagai institusi swasta ataupun perguruan tinggi, kali ini dengan Prodi 1 dari Tata Kelola, untuk kita bisa berbagi ruang untuk apa yang disebut dengan pengembangan pengetahuan dan dinamika seni dan budaya di berbagai negara. Nah, kita ajak Cynthia karena Cynthia punya pengalaman pada yang disebut dengan bagaimana sebuah institusi atau sebuah individu melakukan strategi planning untuk pengembangan seni dan budaya. Dan strategi planning ini menjadi sangat penting karena dia bersifat navigasi kan, memandu dari seluruh apa yang disebut kerja seni dan budaya, dan setiap institusi seperti Melbourne Art Center tentu saja punya strategi budaya yang berdasarkan mapping apa yang hari ini terjadi dan apa yang akan nanti terjadi, sumber daya manusianya yang dikembangkan seperti apa, kemudian apa yang disebut kerjasama dengan komunitas dan pelayanan pada perguruan tinggi. Nanti juga bisa ditanya bagaimana peran institusi semacam Melbourne Art Center dalam kurikulum pendidikan misalkan, dan bagaimana program-program khusus seperti keluarga dan anak-anak dikembangkan yang langka sekali, atau seni menjadi tools bagi berbagai bidang pendidikan, itu juga hal yang langka sekali. Jadi saya hanya mengantar pendek karena waktu Cynthia juga pendek, sayang kalau kita tidak manfaatkan bersama untuk kita bisa melihat perspektifnya dan bertanya untuk hal yang pasti diadaptasi di sini, tapi pasti berguna untuk kita semua. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih banyak Mas Garin. I think now we are going to Cynthia. Our theme is navigating cultural art and creative engagement in contemporary society. And I believe Cynthia is already prepared so many things that needed for us to us as arts management practitioners, students, and also that have a related background. And yes, please for Cynthia.
Selamat pagi. Thank you so much for having me. I am Cynthia, as has been said, and I'm responsible at Arts Centre Melbourne for programming families and children, disability arts, and creative learning, which is our education and public programs offer. Prior to Arts Centre Melbourne, where I have been for 5 years, I've worked the last 20 years in arts and culture in Victoria, and I have worked at various different organisations, from not-for-profit community organisations with artist-run initiatives, really developed as collectives of artists, as well as in local government and now state government. I haven't cracked federal government yet, but I probably will at some point in my career. And I guess it's important to also say that in Victoria and in Australia, we have lots of different opportunities for arts workforce development. Like in Indonesia, there are universities, there are arts collectives, there are museums and galleries. So it really excites me about the future of the arts when there are so many incredible people wanting to work in the arts. What we do in the arts is we tell stories. We connect people to culture, to place, to communities. And I really am so thankful that you are all individuals who want to tell those stories and work around those stories. It's important for us as human beings, and it's important for our culture and society, that social capital, that cultural creative capital. So I'll tell you a bit about what I do at Arts Centre Melbourne, knowing that it's quite reflective of all the different art institutions across Australia in the main states. We are a state government supported organisation, and there tends to be a major state government organisation working like this as well. So it's quite illustrative. It's quite it shows quite a lot of the types of programs in the major institutions. So when we're looking at families and children, what we're looking at is about 10 to 20 seasons per year, and we bring families and communities together through lots of diverse mediums, from circus to physical theatre to narrative-based performance theatre shows to participatory, so workshops in public spaces or in foyers where young children can come and connect and be together with their families and make art, as well as music as well, and comedy and dance too. We also work with organisations that do opera as well, and other symphony orchestras too. In the families and children's space in Australia, it's really looking at audiences that are from babies through to about 12 years old, and their parents or grandparents, that intergenerational family environment. While we don't have a festival of children in Victoria at Arts Centre Melbourne, a lot of states do have festivals dedicated to this particular audience demographic. And I guess that's also not only a reflection of the way society wants to celebrate being together and sharing our stories, but also the need in the arts for making sure there are offers for young audiences. Young audiences are the adult audiences for the future, but more importantly, we want young people to have a sense of community and belonging, which is what we do in the arts through our stories, through our exhibitions and programs. We have a lot of programming in our summer holiday period, as well as our school holiday period more broadly across the year. And that's in Victoria also to meet tourism and encourage people who are visiting Australia and visiting Victoria to entertain themselves with creative offers that are happening in our venue. So it has an economic impact, a very positive economic impact too. and we try to make sure that we can have things programmed for families that are coming to Victoria during those times. The 5 things that we consider when we're programming for the families and children audiences is sparking creativity, because essentially we want to make sure that the activity is fun and entertaining and makes people think. We don't want anything that is not going to be a feast for the eyes and the senses. We really want to make sure that people are engaged and connecting in with the work that they see. We also really highly value sector collaborations, and that's through the arts sector, so collaborating with venues in other states or universities, as well as independent organisations or corporate organisations. So we have sector collaborations within the arts, but also sector collaborations outside of the arts. And we do this not just because it's good to play with others, but it's also important to increase the viability of a performance. If you have more partners involved in seasons, you have more funding, more audiences, and more opportunity to talk to different audiences. So we think that that's really important when we're working in the families and children's space, actually in all our spaces. So sector collaboration is a key element of how we program. Timing, I said before, our school holiday programs, but we also have programs on the weekend. I was at the Heritage Film Festival on this weekend in Yogyakarta, and it was incredible to see on a Sunday night families and children engaging and participating in the festival. In the Australian context, it's very hard to have a late night Sunday night families and children offer, because families won't do that. We have to consider their nap times and all of those things. So you are so far ahead in terms of what you do in the families and children's space already, and that is a huge benefit of working in this space for future programs, because you have more freedom to program. But for us, when we program, we really consider the timing of the show. It has to be not interrupting your nap time or your breakfast time or your dinner time. But that's just in the Australian context. We also consider affordable ticket price points, really important, because often families are coming and they're not necessarily just coming with one child. They want to come with multiple different children, and also maybe grandparents and elders in the community. So we really make sure that when we do prices on shows, and we try to do affordable ticket pricing in that context, but we also try to do free ticket pricing too. But we have to make sure that if you are purchasing a ticket for 5 children and 1 or 2 adults, it's not going to set you back too much in terms of your weekly or your monthly budget. And also, if you make it more affordable, you're actually increasing your spend in other spaces. Like at the festival on the weekend, people weren't just coming and watching the performances and the films, they were also buying food. They may be paying for parking or paying for assistance with parking. They're also maybe paying for accommodation. So the more affordable your ticket price, the more actually available money people have to spend on other things at the festival, which helps with the economy moving around. In the Australian context, our arts and culture is 122 billion, which I know you've got millions and billions here in Yoruba, but in Australia we have dollars. We contribute 122 billion to the economy, which is so much more than any other industry outside of mining. And we do that not just because of the shows that we're putting on or the exhibitions we're putting on. We do that because of the spend that people are making when they're participating in the arts, because they're buying dinner, they're buying accommodation, they're buying petrol, they're buying bus tickets, they're buying train tickets. All of this is really important in the narrative of why the arts is really valuable to government too, because it's about the stories, it's about the culture, it's about the community, but it's also about money. We make money for our society through our on spend of while what people are spending their money on while they're experiencing the art. And that's an incredibly important message to continue to talk about because it highlights why we're valuable to government. Marketing and promotion is also key, and it ties in with the sector collaborations in that the more we partner with broader organisations and institutions, the more opportunity we have to get into their marketing cycles and their marketing relationships, whether that's through their social media, whether that's through their websites, or whether that's through, another example is their newsletters that they may send out. If you can partner with those organisations, you can have your festival or your program or your offer also in their marketing channels, which increases, we call it in Australia reach, increases your audience reach. So marketing and promotions are incredibly important. But in the process of creating that marketing and promotion, you want to make sure you're talking to the right audience in the right way. So you're talking to families and children. You want to highlight how fun it's going to be for their children to attend the show. You want to highlight that there's going to be food offers. You want to highlight that there's going to be affordable ticket prices or free tickets. So you have to talk to your audience in different ways when you're talking through different mediums, because what's on social media might look very different from what's in a newsletter. So that's why marketing and promotions is also very, very important, because it's you talking directly to your potential audience or your existing audience. The other thing around marketing and promotions that's really, really important is keeping the data that you create when you do your first, second, third, fourth performance, and making sure that you can have the permission to contact those people again. Because when you create one piece of work and you market, it's so much effort. When people attend and they register through a ticket online or through a ticket on the door, or just writing their name and their contact details down, that is gold. You want to keep that, because the next time you do a performance or an offer, exhibition or workshop, you want to contact those people again, because they are the people that are your heroes, your champions, who will come again if you keep talking to them. So another space that I work in is creative learning. So we call it creative learning, but it's really public programs and education, and it ties in as well to the youth audience area. So we have schools, so our education program connected to primary and secondary schools, and sometimes also kindergartens, as well as our youth program, which can tie into tertiary institutions, and emerging creatives and lifelong learners, which I mean, it's everybody, but in particular in our context, it's people who are older, the older demographic, the elders. So what we do in the creative learning space is we run workshops, and for schools audiences, we have about 10 different programs that we run across 10 different mediums. So comedy, music, podcasting, radio plays, as well as drama, and new media and social media content creation too. We offer variations of those workshops as well to our emerging creatives and our youth. And in particular in our lifelong learning space, we do a lot of programs that are for talks and ideas and networking and social gathering moments. So we have speakers like I'm here today who will come up and talk about their many years working in theatre or in music production. So we base the program of all of this on what our audiences are telling us. So evaluation becomes very, very important, asking our audience what they like, what they would benefit from, so that we can meet that the next time we put on a show or put on a program. In the school space, we have those workshops, as I mentioned, but we also have main stage theatre offers. And we make sure that they are curriculum aligned. It's really important when working in the education space that you are very clear with your audience, which are teachers in this instance, or principals, the head of the school. We make sure that they understand the curriculum link that will be achieved by coming and seeing the show. In the Australian context, schools don't have the time to come and participate in programs if there doesn't have a very clear curriculum alignment. We can align with the arts, that's always really easy, drama, visual arts, etc. But if we can also align with English, civics, Australian history, we're going to have a lot more teachers wanting to participate in our program. So our curriculum alignment is incredibly important to make sure we have audiences from schools coming to see our show, because otherwise they think, why would I come out of school and pay money if it doesn't meet the needs of what I have to teach my students this year? So it's really important that we identify what those curriculum alignments are, curriculum links are, and then also support the teachers in communicating those curriculum links with the students. So we call that resources. So everything that we do in the school space, we actually also provide resources, which are documents that provide examples of classroom workshops and things to do before visiting the theatre or having the artist visit the school, and things to do after visiting the theatre. So it extends the learning for the students. Instead of the students coming to see the show and see you later, bye-bye, that's it, we make sure that the students have lots of opportunity to connect with the theme of the work. In the workshop space, that's a little bit easier because the workshops don't change. In the theatre space, that becomes a little bit harder because the theatre show might only be on for 3 days or 1 week. So we work with our artists to help draw out what those curriculum links are. Thank you. And then we also work with the artists to make sure that they can identify what those workshops might be, those classroom workshops outside of the actual theatre show that the teachers can do with the students. So the top 5 things to consider when working in the creative learning space, in the education arts space, is curriculum alignment. And remember, it's not just the arts. You're not just teaching the students how to write a play. You're actually teaching them literacy. So if the Ministry of Education thought the workshop was just about the arts, that could be attractive. But if the Ministry of Education knows the workshop is about literacy and Indonesian national identity and drama and the arts, it's a much more attractive proposition. It's much more attractive for the Ministry of Education to support that program or support what you're doing, because you're not just one type of offer, you're multiple different types of offer for curriculum. And also teachers will be able to spread the impact for the students across multiple different curriculum areas rather than just the one. So you want to be able to communicate all of those different curriculum links. Sparking creativity always comes up again because we work in the arts and we do it because it's beautiful and it's us telling stories, or it's us helping other people tell their own stories. And that makes people feel connected. It helps them to feel belonging, and it builds so many health and well-being outcomes, as well as economic as another example of outcomes. So sparking creativity is always incredibly important when you're putting on performances or workshops or participation programs for the school's audiences, as well as all audiences. Timing, we make sure that the work we do in the school space fits into the school's calendar. We don't program when there's public holidays, when there's national holidays for school audiences, because they won't be able to come. It's very obvious, but sometimes we need reminders too. We always have to look on the calendar. What are the term dates? What are also the important education dates in those terms? Because there could be a national program happening at a particular day, and you don't want to put a program on that day. We did that recently in the past, and we had to cancel it because we knew no one was going to come because every student in Victoria was doing a test. So timing is incredibly important. Also, timing of how long it might take students to come to the venue, to the theatre, to the workshop, and does that fit with when they arrive at school, when they need to leave school to go home? Timing is always very important. The resources, what I was talking about before, in supporting the teachers to extend the learning of the show, so it ties into the curriculum alignment, but being able to support teachers to make sure that they are teaching the students the curriculum that best is reflected in the show or in the workshop they're participating in. Sometimes it can be really obvious because it's around national identity and the show has a very clear national identity theme. Sometimes it's a little less obvious, so you have to really help through the resources, the teachers, to draw that out for the students. Because we all know, and there's so much evidence, that learning through memorization is one way to learn, but learning through experience and inquiry and participation is so much stronger. And that's where the arts are a secret weapon, because what we do is we generate empathy and connection and understanding through hearing other people's stories. So when you very clearly identify that with the curriculum, you're actually creating a much stronger learning environment for the students. So resources are about supporting teachers to create that environment. And sector collaboration comes about again. And in this context, it's also with the department, well, in Australia, it's the Department of Education. I know here in Indonesia, it's the Ministry of Education. So connecting in with those sorts of key government departments is really important, and also health, because what we're doing in the arts and culture space is celebrating and generating health and wellbeing outcomes. So access and inclusion, which is also disability arts. We do at Arts Centre Melbourne relaxed performances, which are really opportunities to have a more relaxed environment in the theatre. And that's for anyone who may have experienced trauma or is neurodivergent or is living with a disability. So we have dedicated relaxed performance programs that support their comfort and make sure that they feel welcomed and included in the audiences for these shows. Industry events, networking and gathering, so that people who are working in the disability art space, but also disabled and deaf creatives, can connect and have more opportunities to create work together too. And disability-led main stage presentations. For us in Australia, for us in Victoria, there's a range of maturity of working in the disabled creative sector. Something that we place really strong, high importance on is it being disability-led. So ensuring that the expertise is coming from people who are experienced in their life of living with a disability. And this also taps into the fact that disabled creatives have less employment opportunities in Australia. So we're trying to address that issue by making sure that we work with disability-led organisations. We have a range of programs that are offered in this space, and it's really exciting to see, even in the 5 years that I've been at Arts Centre Melbourne, to see that growth and change. So, for example, I have a team in my access and inclusion space, my disability art space, and when I started, everyone in that team was not disabled. And through natural attrition, I have made sure that the people we hire now in that space all identify as disabled. And that's making sure that we're authentically representing the community that we're creating art with, but also increasing economic outcomes for deaf and disabled individuals. So part of how we do that quite successfully is we have a major initiative called Alter State. It's being delivered for the third time in October this year, and it's a festival that is celebrating disability, creativity, creatives, artists and culture and community. And we have generated, every time we do the festival, we generate at least 100 employment opportunities for deaf and disabled creatives. And we keep smashing our targets of audience engagement because it's a relatively short festival period, but the last time we ran it, we had over 5,000 individuals participate. So this year, when we're running it in October, we're actually increasing our venue partnerships, our sector collaborations, because we have learnt so much in the disability art space, and we can't claim that we're perfect. It's a journey. It's an improvement process. We can't remove every single barrier, but we can work towards reducing all of those barriers. So we wanted to share our knowledge with other venues across the sector. So this year we're actually partnering with 12 different venues and supporting their disability arts journey as well. So we place a really high importance on the work we do in this space, and we also run outreach programs that we've been nominated for a national award too, which is exciting, working with really young children with complex disability. But as you can see, I'm really passionate about working in this space too, because it's an area of the arts that doesn't get as much attention as it should. We've also got 20% of Australians who live with disability, so it's really important that we reflect them on our stages, but also in our workforce. So top 5 things to consider for disability arts. Accessibility, so that can range from Australian Sign Language, Auslan, and when we work with other countries, we also make sure that we have the sign language from their country as well, and people can book in and have those offers and options, as well as tactile tours, sometimes called touch tours too. So we make sure that we budget and promote and advertise tactile tours for people who are vision impaired or low vision. And accessibility can also range from making sure we have things online. Sometimes attending the venue is not possible. So if we can make sure that we have programs that are available online, it's increasing the participation and opportunity to engage with what we do. Disability leadership, as I mentioned, incredibly important. It's important to reflect with an authentic voice the individuals for which the audience, the intended audience. So disability leadership and supporting organisations to work more with disabled creatives and deaf creatives is incredibly important. Sparking creativity comes up again. It always comes up again because we work in the arts, so I won't talk too much about that. But making sure that what we're doing is going to be interesting and relevant to the audiences that we're talking to. Affordable ticket price points in this space are once again also very important. And that's because a lot of deaf and disabled creatives and audience members are dealing with other additional costs in their lives. So if we can reduce the ticket price points, we're going to be able to be making more of a difference for potential audience members. Sector collaboration. You've got a lot of disability organisations in Australia, so we always try to partner with our disability organisations, not only because what we're doing benefits the services that they may be providing, but it also means that we can tap into their databases with the programs that we're offering too. So this is just a little bit about Alterstate, which is our hero Deaf and Disability program. It's every 2 years. In 2021, we had a lot of evaluation that occurred that helped support how we were going to design and deliver our 2022 event. So 2021 was supposed to happen in 2020, sorry, but it had a little bit of COVID impact, as we all experienced. So it was delivered as a digital event in 2021. And because of that evaluation, we were able to deliver a really diverse program in 2022 that had significant engagement with audiences. Our 2024 program is delivered across 12 days in October, and we're in the midst of planning and preparing for that. So that's very exciting. But in 2022, we actually won a major Green Room Award Association for contribution to sector and community, which is a huge milestone in terms of awards in Australia. So we were really incredibly pleased, and we hope to one day win another award for our Alter State initiative too. So these are the different types of programs that we ran. I'll start from the hero image of Rodney Bell with feathers in his eyes. He's an incredible artist from Aotearoa, New Zealand, who is a wheelchair user, and he's a dancer. So he created Mary Mary, which was a beautiful dance piece and spoken word piece that we delivered in one of our theatre spaces to sold out audiences across the entire season. The image next to that is two of the artists who were involved in Momentum, which was a women's circus production. And they are featured at the moment on trapezes. So I've just gone blank on their names for a second, but the wheelchair user is being, it was like a dance physical theatre piece. But then we also had on Hamer Hall, which is one of our huge venues in the city along the Birrarung, the river there. We also had Roya the Destroyer, who is a physical theatre circus performer, scaling the building and doing all of this dance around the building, which was just utterly incredible. And the audience members put earphones on and listened to the streetscape and the sound as she was doing the performance. And then above, that's a short excerpt from Rodney Bell's work, and Caroline Bowditch with Rodney Bell and Carly Finlay. They are all major identities in the disability arts network across Australia and Aotearoa, New Zealand. That's them just gathering and enjoying and laughing and having a good time. And then this is me and Caroline accepting that award I talked about. So that was a huge moment of celebration for the disability arts sector, but also Arts Centre Melbourne, obviously. And then that's the poster design on the front of the building. So another program that we deliver in the disability arts space is When the World Turns, which is a exclusively inclusive program for young people with complex disability, predominantly wheelchair users as well. In 2020, we commissioned Polyglot, which is a theatre company that is child-centred in Australia, to work with Oily Cart, which is a child-centred theatre company working with kids with complex disability in the UK. And then COVID happened and it was a very long commission process. But we launched the program When the World Turns in 2022 as part of the festival. And there was, I think, under 250 audience members, because when you're working in the disability theatre space with young children and sometimes with general audiences too, you have less audience members who may be attending the shows because of the nature of the work. Not always, but sometimes. Rodney's work, that wasn't the case, but it was the case with When the World Turns. So with such critical success, we talked to Polyglot and we said, what can we do to make this more accessible to more young children with complex disability across Victoria? And so we put our heads together and we thought about it and we said, we need to make this work go into schools. So it's removing the challenge and the barrier of some people not being able to come to the venues. So what we did is we worked with Polyglot and reworked the piece of theatre so that it could go into schools, specialist development schools, inclusive schools across Victoria. We worked on a funding proposal to the government to say, can you help us do this and make this happen? And then we also spoke to some corporate sponsors and some philanthropic organisations to say, can you also help us make this happen? This program is running all of this year and all of next year, and then we'll start to ask more people for more money to make it happen. But it's going to be supporting 3,000 students from specialist development schools to connect with the work. I have a very short little video. I wonder if it's going to work. I'm just putting, oh no, hold on, it's a different one. So this is a short video about the work.
When the World Turns provides a space where you walk in and everyone goes, ah, and they start breathing. The air smells different, it feels different. And so you get a sense that you're in a completely different place.
When the World Turns was commissioned by Art Centre Melbourne to be part of Alter State, our hero flagship initiative in our access and inclusion space, for a 2022 premiere.
Polyglot Theatre have worked with children from special development schools to help create the work.
Around welcoming and including young people with complex disability in a diverse arrangement of play.
The students who are experiencing this work get to see actors with disability performing, which then opens up those opportunities for them as well. So we hope one day that when the World Turns goes out into a school, the students who saw it will be the students performing in it. Having that opportunity to experience this work will lift confidence and self-esteem and well-being, and it gives them a voice that makes them feel centred. Art Centre Melbourne is hoping to raise $65,000 to help us get When the World Turns into 10 special development schools in 2025.
That will really aid and assist in the impact of young people experiencing and engaging and being centred in sensory-friendly arts experience.
Please donate to help us bring this very important show to thousands of young people living with complex disabilities.
And assist Art Centre Melbourne in bringing immersive, creative, theatrical experiences to over 3,000 young people in specialist development schools across Victoria.
So as you can see, we created this little video when we were asking for funders, for partners across the sector to come on board. And it was because of this video that we actually generated the support to make it possible to run the program again next year. So we'll have to do another video for 2026 as well. But if I just draw your attention to all of these names that are listed in here, at the bottom, and also all of the logos. It takes a village to create a project like this. And once you have created that village, it's much easier to go on a journey with that village as well. So it's important when you're working with your funders, your private sector, corporate partners, your government partners, and your industry partners across the arts or tertiary sector, that you continue to keep them on the journey, because you don't know where it's going to lead you. This was a project that originally was created to have 1 2-week season in it came about because of COVID in 2022 in our venue, and it's gone on to have so far 4-year journey from when we commissioned it in 2019 to now. So actually that's 5 years. And Oleh in the UK are also continuing to roll out the program. So the idea of it being a relationship that just lasts for one show or one project, we don't like doing that. We like to keep things connected and continue to work with our families across the sector to create work that really does make a difference for people participating in it. This work in particular is really powerful because it's flexible and responsive to the children that it's being performed for and with. And so if a child is nonverbal, the performer can do different performative elements, and there's different sensory options. If the child is low vision, then there's a lot more sound and touch that they can experience as part of the show. If the performer is in a wheelchair, which a lot of them are for this particular work, then we make sure that it's a journey that they are able to feel really centred and comfortable. In particular, when working in this space with children with complex disability, what we also really are aware of and value is the fact that they're not often as celebrated as they should be. And so we create work that makes sure that the children feel celebrated, feel very centered in the work. They're not an add-on or they're not a hassle for the show. They're absolutely celebrated for what it is that they bring to their experience as part of the show. The louder, the quieter, it all works, and that's a testament to the creatives who have made this work. So back to my slide. That's actually the end. This is a still of King Stingray, a show that we put on at Sydney Myer Music Bowl, which houses 10,000 people in a part open public realm amphitheatre. And we did this presentation for schools during the day and then for general public and youth during the evening. And it was a sold out event and incredibly successful, and wouldn't have been possible without the work that we have done in the previous years to show that the audience has a demand for this type of content, this type of offer, and that we have the skills and experience to successfully be able to deliver it. So we have a lot of funders who come on board because we can show them that we can do it and that it's going to make impact for young people. And then what we try to do is we keep them in the family, and then we build an even bigger program the following year. Thank you.
Incredible. Let's make a big applause to Cynthia. That was a fantastic, engaging, and very informative. We are so thankful for that. Let me contextualize in bahasa. I think ini satu kesempatan baik sekali karena Cynthia ini adalah orang yang banyak memainkan peran penting di dalam melibatkan partisipasi, terutama fokusnya pada keluarga dan anak-anak, specifically pada disability, complex disabilities yang dia sampaikan. And also Cynthia mention bahwa art is a powerful weapon. Itu kita melihat relevansi yang cukup kuat gitu, bagaimana di dalam praktik tata kelola seni atau manajemen seni kita memandang, memaknai dan melibatkan seni sebagai aset. Tetapi juga bagi Cynthia tidak hanya sebagai aset as a commodity, tapi juga sebagai a powerful tools to engage society. Ada banyak informasi terkait dengan konteks produksinya, keterlibatan sponsor, kemudian bagaimana how it mediated going through the school, dan juga melibatkan kurikulum. Dan yang pasti sampai hari ini saya kira kita semua lihat kurikulum kita masih belum ramah ramah difabel, dan disability. Dan itu mungkin bisa kita eksplorasi bareng sama Cynthia. Seperti apa sih kemungkinan itu dilakukan dengan Cynthia yang sangat lama sekali bekerja di sektor ini, karena dia percaya bahwa dengan melibatkan seni sebagai senjata yang sangat kreatif, itu bisa menimbulkan empathy dengan pendekatan storytelling atau storytelling atau telling the stories. Ini yang menurut saya cukup penting untuk tahu metodenya. So we still have like around 20 minutes ya Pak Mika ya. Do you think 20 to 5 minutes? And we will use this opportunity to exchange our perspective, knowledge, and probably one of you and some of you maybe have a questions, boleh ditanya atau mungkin boleh diberi respon atau komentar, silakan. Before we are waiting for the floor, I have a question, Cynthia. What's about you already give us a very lot of information about how art engage with the curriculum, and also how art also as a creative weapon can open other possibilities. As you said earlier, it's not about eyes but other senses. And could you tell us how to do that without losing the characteristic of art itself? Yes.
I can, and actually as part of a presentation that I did yesterday with some festival arts managers here in Indonesia, I gave them a practical example of this as well.
Yes.
So I can bring that up too. Um, so essentially, oh, whoops, no, I want to go into there. Essentially, sometimes artists are very comfortable with their work being translated for curriculum. However, sometimes you need to help them understand why it's so important for those audiences. So the more you help artists understand why outlining and drawing out the curriculum, um, the more it benefits the next time you work with them, because it's really about supporting greater awareness and understanding of why connecting in with the curriculum is going to support more audiences to see the show. Artists always want, well, generally, most of the time, 99% of the time, artists want more audiences to see their work. So communicating that this curriculum link and identifying what that curriculum link is going to mean you have more audiences, which can also mean more ticket sales, more money, is going to be more attractive for artists to understand why they should be working with you to draw out what those curriculum links are. So in terms of how that can happen practically, I do have an example in here that I can speak to, which is the Peasant Prince. And I'm really sorry, if I don't know why all my resolution on my images are not that great, so apologies there. But The Peasant Prince is a theatre work that Monkey Bar, an organisation from a theatre company from Sydney, have created. They created it because they wanted to tell the story of the Peasant Prince and the narrative of the show. And what we and our Sydney Opera House colleagues and our Queensland Performing Arts Centre colleagues talked to them about was, if you want to have this show with more audience members, you also want to make sure that schools are going to take the time out of their timetable to experience the show with you. So let's look at the show and let's work out where the curriculum links are. So they're here. We communicate it with on the web page in all of our marketing of the show. So in there it says the curriculum information. So we have capabilities, intercultural capability, as well as Asia and Australia's engagement with Asia. So those are areas that the Federal Department of Education have said all students need to understand these topic areas. So working with the company in saying how this show can help students understand these areas has meant that the company is now able to tour the work all across Australia. And how does that look in practice? That's the timing. This is the resource, so I can take you to it now. And it identifies all the different themes of the work. So this is all available for teachers to look at before they're making the decision to come to see the show. It gives a synopsis of how the show identifies identity and cultural heritage, determination and perseverance, because these are themes that are important for students to understand and get a really practical example of that coming to life. And the theatre is an incredible way to provide that example for that lived experience. And then it goes into the resource of making the play and the historical context, so the teachers understand that they can read this and then work with the students to understand that historical context, which ties into the curriculum of Asia and Australia's intersection and intercultural connection with Asia. And then it provides classroom activities. So really practical activities that teachers can use in their classroom that connect in with the history curriculum, the English curriculum, as well as the drama and art curriculum. Drama and art, they're always quite easy to tick off on how creative arts experiences reflect the curriculum across creative arts areas. But English and history, we need a little bit more help with artists to draw that out. So we will sometimes do that, but as a result of us doing it for a few times with Monkey Bar, they have now incorporated this, which is Monkey Bar's the company, they have now incorporated this into their practice. So it's a lot of relationship support, but it has huge payoff.
Yes, thank you. I think this part is menolong kita untuk melihat bagaimana cara membunyikan kurikulum dalam konteks konteks keterlibatan dengan menggunakan seni sebagai metode, tidak hanya sebagai aset atau komoditas. Ada yang ingin menanggapi atau ingin bertanya? Silakan Pak Mika barangkali. Is there anyone? Mungkin. So yeah. Okay, I'm trying to continue. Sorry, ada? Oke. Menurut saya ini relevan ya, karena di corak masyarakat kita yang sangat inklusif, sedang diusahakan inklusif, seni itu bisa memainkan peran penting, dan Mbak Cynthia ini sudah sangat expert di dalam bidang bagaimana itu diberdayakan dan metode cara mengembangkannya. Mungkin di masing-masing pengalaman ya, mungkin itu ada, dan terutama pada konteks keluarga dan anak yang mengalami kompleks disability. Saya kira saya ingin kalau belum ada, saya ingin menggunakan kesempatan ini. So Cynthia, what do you consider the most important component in this one? In your experience, what is the best way to build international partnership in the arts that can enrich local culture without sacrificing their identity?
It's really important to work out why you would partner with an international organization or company. And where the why fits into my brain is also who's going to make it possible and why they would make it possible, because you need to invest in that partnership. So preferably there's an element of co-contribution occurring, whether that's in kind or actual cash. It's less important. It's about both parties coming to the table and investing their time and effort and energy into making a partnership possible. For me, the why is policy in the countries. For example, I was at the Indonesian embassy in Canberra a couple of weeks ago, and the Indonesian ambassador to Australia, His Excellency Dr. Siswa Pramono, yeah, who's lovely, who's just a fantastic individual, whose son is very interested and practicing in the arts, which is always a very good sign for us in the arts industry. He identified the alignment with our policies as nations, and education was a key alignment. And that's also why I think it's so important to identify where in the arts that we bring about education impacts, because it means that there's funding and partnership opportunities with government. So there needs to be mutual benefits to a partnership, and that can be from an organisational level, but often if it's from an organisational level, it's because the country itself has identified the importance of why that connection or theme and topic is so important. So I think from Australia and Indonesia perspective, in the spaces that I work, education is a really clear policy alignment that would generate why we would partner and why we would create work together.
Yes, thank you. Ini menarik karena saya barusan tanya terkait dengan kerjasama partnership dengan organisasi dari negara lain, Bu, tanpa harus kehilangan identitasnya. So ini menurut saya metode pendekatan seni atau budaya itu sangat penting agar kita seringkali tidak macet untuk menempatnya sebagai ruang isolasi yang tertutup, tetapi juga lewat pengalaman Cynthia ini bisa dikembangkan menjadi suatu gerak yang senantiasa berkembang. Dan konteks ini yang menurut saya cukup penting untuk melihat bagaimana peran seni dan budaya untuk engaging our contemporary society. I think I'm going to the last question for me. Is there anyone want to add something? Ya, boleh. Dari mana? Boleh sebut nama? Ini boleh.
Okay, so first I want to say thank you for your information. It's very amazed me, and it's new for me, especially about the disabilities arts. So I want to ask question about what is the most challenging part when handling the disabilities arts, and how do you handle those challenging factors? That's my question. Thank you. My name is Shiva from Ambarukmo Institute Tourism.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for the question. It's a good question. A challenging thing to consider when working in the disability art space is that no disability is the same, and you need to be prepared to have the resources of time and communication with the sector and with potential audiences to make sure that you are reducing barriers wherever possible. So those top 5 things to consider helps that. But ultimately, it's also why disability leadership is so important when working in this space. And if you can't have disability leadership, bring in consultants who can help with communicating the message or assessing the plan and working through what are the barriers that like in my instance, what are the barriers that I might not be aware of because I don't live with a disability. So it's the time and resources to put energy into assessing what might be missing. And I guess also being comfortable to make mistakes, because we're not always going to get everything right, particularly when you consider that some people's accessibility is another person's barrier. But if we keep trying and we keep making an effort and making an investment into this space, it will continue to build trust with the community. It will build opportunity with creatives who are deaf or disabled. And it will ultimately generate more work and more audiences.
I think yes, sudah cukup. Oke, mungkin tes. Halo, ada yang lain? Mungkin ada yang Ibu mau menyampaikan sesuatu? Monggo dalam bahasa Indonesia, nggak apa-apa, nanti kami sampaikan. Ada yang mau nanya dalam bahasa Indonesia juga nggak apa-apa? Boleh? Okay, I'm going to the last question for me. Is there any tips for all these arts manager to be as you and that working in the art organization, a typical organization like Art Center in Melbourne? Because at the time until now, we still facing the problems in curriculum. I think how it more reliable with the disability perspective, things like that, and also use art as creative weapons to engage more, to get more engaging in our typical society, which is quite diverse. Yes.
I guess a tip is what you're probably already doing, but it's hard work. Just can keep working hard. And COVID was in part so challenging because we never got to come together. So remembering that it is when we come together that all of our hard work pays off, and it gives us the reason of why we do what we do. So with that hard work and with that coming together, I think is leaning on each other and understanding sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and it's perfectly fine. You just need to ask the questions and you just need to seek the support. And the more you seek support and ask the questions, actually the more relationships that you're building and the more opportunities for networking and support that you're generating. Because one of our major challenges, I think, internationally in the arts space, besides artificial intelligence, which is a whole other conversation, is funding. Justifying what we do to government, to corporate, sometimes to the education sector itself, takes effort. So the more people that you have as partners, the more impact you may make with your project, and the more likely you will generate funding partners to support what you do. So there's a few tips in there. But also I wanted to say that I want to get a photo of all of you before we all leave. So please don't leave without being in my group photo.
Sure, sure. Okay, so we are thanking for Cynthia for all the inspiring presentations, and let's give a big applause to. Yes. Now I'm going back to master's ceremony. Thank you. Thank you.
Oke, terima kasih. Sebelumnya akan ada penyerahan dari jurusan untuk Pak Garin dan Cynthia yang akan diserahkan oleh Pak Mika. Dipersilahkan.
Cynthia, please, ladies first. Yeah. Thank you. Sama Mas Garin. Garin itu kawasan Pengajar. Makasih ya. Kita foto bersama. Mas Garin di sini. Kita foto dari sini. Kita. Ayo, oke. Ya, boleh. Aku naik ke atas. Gaya bebas. Gaya bebas. Gaya bebas. Gaya lima jari. Satu, dua, tiga. Oke, thank you. Terima kasih semuanya. Ada bisa dari ketua kelas Tipra. Foto. Ya berikan.